do it. Gosh, should I record the last meeting? All right. Anyways, thanks for joining us for front end pairing. Deepika is working on drop-down boxes and iterations and work items. And so I do understand you mentioned the search drop-down box, and
Yes.
historically that would not have worked because that was like a really custom solution. So that's really cool if the drop-down box from the search is the same kind of thing you can reuse here. And so I hope that's the case. But yeah, but you mentioned that you kind of wrote this out, but you're running into some issues right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I'll be very honest. I'm not very good at accessibility.
That's okay.
And that's something which like I'm bad at. I'll be honest. So working with this, with having custom and drop down the normal selector of the browser, and something which I am not good at. So yeah, where I'm figuring out, I'm learning a lot with this. I'll agree. It's just like great learning.
Mm-hmm.
So there are few issues that, so there's a component that is being used, which is the drop down keyboard navigation, which is also used in the header search, the same thing. And what it does is whenever I use the keys like down or up, it just emits an event. And now programmatically a background is set if the option is focused. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's okay. So there's a change, there's an event emitted, and I know which option is focused, and then I have a background class on it on the drop-down item. There are two like issues to it. One is so this is the iteration cadence, and these are the iterations, right? So when I have like single iteration, then I like just so when I have single iterations, it is focused correctly. But when I have multiple, both of them are focused at the same time, which should not happen. Although the 0th one is focused, maybe I'm doing something wrong here. Definitely, I know I should have like given a reference to the MR. I have the MR here. I know it's a little difficult to understand without the code here, but I just want
another question.
Yeah.
Deepika, like currently you can associate issues with iterations, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What is the UI element that's being used there? Like, why are we not just doing exactly what is already there?
Because it's a set. So that's a very good question. So
can we look at how that one works?
Yes. So definitely this UX is a little better. So what we do here is when we click on an iteration, there is an edit button, like we have the edit button and the drop down is open, and we have this empty thing you see here because there is no headers, and there is this section header in the drop down which assign ID. So this UX is a little not that good. I mean, it's so we are planning to like make it more usable, because most of the UX, if you see in the work items, kind of works in the same way. This is a token selector because we can select multiple assigns at the same time. Labels again is a different box. So what we are trying to achieve here is something similar, and if we have that, and we can do that, but this is definitely a better UX, and we're trying to achieve something similar with the iterations as well. So that's why we are using this.
So this is an opportunity to improve on that UX, and it's not necessarily about just making it work, because then you can just copy the existing one. You want to make it better.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So, and I'm definitely sure that this use case is going to like come in the future, because this is something that like there's probably going to be another design with this, because it's not something, it's just like this combination doesn't exist in the storybook or the pajama component, which has the same combination of the search box and the drop downs. It's if we have the logic here, we could probably just wrap it up and enable it in a component there, because this is definitely not something which is just not weird. It's just that when I started working on it, I realized nothing actually just works. We have to pick it up and use it. So I just have to have some combinations here. Yeah.
So I dropped a link in the Zoom chat. Yes. So in our GitLab UI component library, we have a whole bunch of different stories of drop downs that we need. This looks like the one we want to use, right?
Does it support search though, Paul?
Do we need to search? Well,
Yeah.
we need to search too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you go to, well, it can too, because you can also go to the one above this where we do with header and footer. Yeah.
So it is, the problem is we don't
yeah.
have to have this header.
Well, yeah,
The
you don't
problem
need to have that either, but like, yeah, there's a lot going. The drop down has search and headers. It's a whole other web page.
So what I tried is there's a component user select, which is using something like this. I tried a lot of, if you want to like try something right now, my local is open, and what I just try to do is there's a drop down with the section header and everything here. So instead of like changing my own component, yeah. So we have the form, so this is something similar. We have the header here, and we have the header text. Yeah. But this is different. So if I would have had a drop down without any headers in it, so there is no, either there's going to be a text or there's going to be a header. If I just delete both of them, it's just an empty button with the chevron icon. That's it. I mean, I don't want to have that button per se. It's a input box, and I want to have, like, if you see here, this is all a container. That's not what is like required. It's like this is separate search box, and below that the drop down items should start. So it's if I put the search box, yeah.
Can we go back to the design then?
It sounds like we've maybe got a gap in our GitLab UI components then, right? That we should maybe, probably outside of this, we don't want to delay your work, but we should probably see if we can have a GitLab UI. I've just got a really similar, I'll send you a link to an MR that I've been following. It's not exactly the same, but it's where we, we can move an issue, or we can move multiple issues. If you watch the video that's attached to this just here, you'll see that we've got a weird thing. We've got a button, and you click on the button. It takes a few seconds to get there, but we then click on this move selected button at the bottom. And then when you click on the button, that then opens a drop down with a search and a header. And it's the same sort of thing where realistically, if that was just a box that you could type in, it would probably work as well, if not better. I don't know. It seems like an unnecessary extra step maybe to kind of click that button. I don't know.
That's why we're trying to build a better UX. So the sidebar is built the same way. Everything, you have to just click a button here, and then you'll open this with the assign milestone, and we don't need this. We just need
So that's a real, oh wow, okay. So
so I have another point to make. If this is really a limitation of GitLab UI, and it should be fixed there before you can do what you really want here, perhaps just to finish this feature, you want to just copy the one that's on issue, even though it's not perfect, it does everything you want, right? Feature-wise, plug it in here, knowing that, okay, now we need to wait until either us or somebody else makes GitLab UI have the functionality we want, and then plug that one in. But that will unblock you on at least getting this feature done with maybe not the perfect UI, but That's an option that
To
you
add
can go
to-
back to product with.
To add some context, what Chad is talking about, and going back to something you said earlier, was like, I'm really bad at accessibility. And actually, almost everybody is, which is why we try to have a component library so we don't have to think about it or rewrite it. And
Exactly.
so if we're finding something that search is using and we want to reuse it, like that's a really good indicator. This needs to live in the GitLab UI component library in a reusable way so that we're not creating multiple implementations that all diverge from each other. And then we're having to all become experts at everything, which is very challenging. And so that's definitely the situation that our drop downs are in. Like if you open labels and everything, is that's what happened. This is from before we had a component library. We had the labels drop down, the users drop down, and they all started out copying from each other and doing different stuff and diverging. But this problem, like we want to form input. This is definitely a component library problem of I want to be able to type and have the content drop down. It'd be so cool to just get one started on GitLab UI. And what Chad is talking about of being able to approach this from different angles would be really nice too. If let's iterate on this. So let's have it where we can select iterations. It's not the dream, but let's have it where we can select iterations the old-fashioned way. And at the same time, let's work on the component and the GitLab UI.
That being said, Paul, if we've got 99% of the way here already,
that's true.
Could
That's
we
true.
Could we indulge just to see if we can fix this one little bug? Because it might be that we can steal this code to then kind of build our GitLab UI component.
I will say sunk cost fallacy. The things that Paul said are very important. Like we don't want to add unnecessary complexity. Like because of all the reasons Paul said, we should depend on the component library. If we found a limitation in that component library, we shouldn't add more code to work around it if we don't have to, because that's like extra debt that is getting added into it. And if we already have something that does exactly what we want and we don't have to we already have something that does what we want, but in an imperfect way. We don't want to make another thing that does what we want in another imperfect way. Like when what we would really want is to use GitLab UI. Let's like just reuse the existing imperfect one until we get the correct solution, which is GitLab UI. So I would say I'm on Paul's side, just reuse the existing one.
So I may say so. I just think that like it's just kind of 80% done. It's just like those 10-20 where I'm stuck. And if we can just do it here, and like I agree with Lee that if we just build on this and we create an issue where we can just migrate it later, it's just like
we need maybe you need to sign some kind of contract to promise that you'll help us finish the GitLab UI component.
It comes down to the technical debt for me. Like I don't want to introduce new tech, like 2 pieces of technical debt that we should clean up and not get another one. I'd rather just live with the one piece of technical debt that we have.
I guess I'm like, I don't want to lose the work that you've already done here in the hope that we can use this to create our component. That being said, I think if we spend 5 more minutes trying to help you fix this, and then the rest of the 40 minutes or half an hour to try and build the GitLab UI component, then we might even say, can we block this merge request for like a week? Or I don't know how urgently you want to get this merge request in, but if we can get the GitLab UI component in quick enough, maybe we can block this.
That's a great idea. And that's
and
a great idea.
Say, like,
oh, sorry. What we can say, Chad?
I was just going to say, like, even if you don't get it to where you want, the work won't be lost. Like you can take a diff of what you have here, open an issue on the GitLab UI project, paste this diff in and say, this is mostly what this should do. and then still use the one off of issues. Like, that's always an option if you can't get this to work.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also what's happened here is really important work to figure out what is the reusable component. Because when we've run into these situations, I would diff both this dropdown and the search dropdown to find what's shared. And that's really great for me being able to just, these are the shared bits that I can abstract to a new component that
Really
we
good
want to
point.
use in GitLab UI. So like, this is really, really awesome work that is already done. So I think it's important to reiterate, pun intended, that the big, issue talking that Chad and I are going off, like, do we even want to do this? Does not discredit anything that's already done. What's already done is really valuable work. I do have
Right.
one other thing to bat your way, Deepika, of just to be aware of that might sway you the other way of wanting to maybe solve this in GitLab UI first, is when we do, like, when we build complex components like this that are inspired from other complex components, it's often overlooked. We have to do the same test coverage. And so the tests have to, and they end up duplicated, and you end up with large amount of tests that you have to reiterate as well. That's a lot of work that you can save yourself if you just abstract the bit and then reuse, because then that is a really easy test.
And it may be easier to write in isolation in the GitLab UI without all of the extra domain complexity and whatever else is going on in this. But on the other side, iterating on it in a real place is a reason to keep doing it here. That's definitely true. Like, you want it to work in a real environment, and you might do the wrong thing in GitLab UI if you're not using it in the real process.
Totally. And so I like doing it in parallel. I like doing what we're doing here. Then in parallel, we got to start spinning up and trying to push forward a component that needs to be reused here. I think that's a good idea. But one thing just to be really aware of is there's a little bit of a duplication between the search bar and this thing now, which is fine. But now the tests have to be duplicated too. And so that's just ends up with a heftier weight that we end up carrying around, which is hopefully just emphasizes the follow-up work of using a component for this is really important. Yeah.
So
and a nice meta observation, like, this is the point of mob pair programming. It's not, I need to write the code. It's let's debate about what the right code is, and you get the right thing done, which in the long run often is the path of net least effort. But Paul and I always agree on everything. When we pair, that's how we do. It's just
yeah. I don't pair with Chad unless we're agreeing on everything. As soon as he disagrees with me, I make up some excuse and I just leave. Yeah. I'm joking.
Should we indulge and try?
Yes. Thank you, Lee. Thank you for keeping us focused. Yes.
No, don't be silly.
Yeah. So what's the issue? Because it looks like it works.
Yeah, it does. There are certain things. So one is I need to like scroll it programmatically when the focus is there. One of the issues is this. So when I'm reaching I'm getting the focus, I need to like scroll to that particular position.
Also, what's up with the cursor flashing in it? That seems like that shouldn't be happening if it's not an editable field.
It is though. That's what's interesting. Is this
is
the search? Oh, that is the search. Okay, I get it.
I love that. I love that. Yeah,
it's a really nice component. This is a huge win. This would be really cool. I mean, it reminds me of even it'd be cool if editing labels was like this too. Like I like this a lot. So is this, when you're talking about going down, you're saying that this drop down isn't
so it's not scrolling to the position. Why? Because I need to like scroll into view. But I really tried like I have the refs.
I think I know what's maybe going on here.
The way it's highlighting two is weird as well, right? Rather than selecting one item at the time when you're scrolling.
Can we go back to the UI? Can we go back to the, are you there, Deepika? Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm
something
so sorry.
froze. No, you're good.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the UI?
Yes. Um,
Is most of this pushed up? If me or Paul or anyone else were to pull the current version of the MR, or have you made some changes since then?
No, I haven't made any. So whatever changes I made, I've pushed them. So
Awesome, brilliant, thank
let
you.
me just share MR. So another problem with my MRs is I just have this urge to push whatever I have, and I have multiple pipelines, which is not that good. I try to skip. I just can't keep things locally.
That's okay.
It's
No, you
just
shouldn't.
very,
Like, yeah,
yeah.
you should feel free to be as messy as you want with your pushes. That's totally fine.
So now might be a good time to remind everyone that we can git push -o ci.skip, which I'm sure you all know, but
Ooh,
Yeah. I also don't, I mean, off the topic, but I still see that pipeline. I skip it. Sometimes I don't.
that's
But
oh,
I
well done.
just,
Oh, awesome, one step ahead of me.
Yeah, don't worry about that. That's fine.
okay. So
Um,
here is, I've shared the MR link.
Great.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
I wanted to highlight something with the way the drop downs work, which is, I think, related to the problem you're trying to fix. If you go to the way our drop down component should work and the way Bootstrap drop downs work is they're able to detect where the window boundary is, and it will either drop up or drop down based on that.
Yeah, correct.
So there is no so right. So you see you had to increase the height of the window. So this does highlight, for some reason, this is only dropping down when I would expect it to also drop up. And this is going to be a big difference between the way search works. Search will always drop down. And I imagine search is maybe hard coded to always drop down. Our drop down, we probably want it to be able to drop up. I'm not sure how to do that though. I haven't seen the code that you're working on and why it wouldn't be dropping up.
So yeah, I haven't like put all that logic of the window and the boundaries and everything. It's just like it's always dropped down, and I know that the other drop downs, they drop up or down depending upon the height of the available window.
Yeah, and that's not logic. That's not logic you should have to put into it. Like that's logic that should be baked into dropdown. And I think looking back at the code, the component that you're using.
Yeah. So what is here is this type, and it's a div which is placed with CSS, and then there are drop down items there. So you can see the weird thing here is there is no drop down parent. There are drop down items and section headers. And if I would put drop down parent, but it comes with a header which is required, and it just doesn't work. So that's why I'm kind of like stuck with this.
I think I think we can get the drop down parent to work. But it sounds like Andre has something on the brain. What were you thinking, Andre?
Yeah, I was also I wanted to ask about the visuals. So I wonder how that works with the mobile screen size.
Yeah,
right.
I can try it.
Yeah.
Is it something maybe too tiny for fingers to be actually usable? I wonder. How are other drop downs and search boxes work?
So these are combo boxes, or they are in token selectors, or actual. So this is a token selector.
Mhm.
And this is this works as a combo box, and then without any headers or grouping, so we can use anything. But this is a input selector. There is no drop down. This is a date selector, which is still fine. We can do that. This is the weird one where we don't do search and the grouping and everything together. So yeah, that's why it is a little different than other widgets being used here.
Okay. But I think it's like not really related to this MR, rather the general UX issue for our kind of input heavy components with search.
Sorry,
and
pardon me. I didn't get you. Sorry.
I think it's not kind of related to this MR. It's
Yeah,
rather than we maybe should
Yeah.
check from the UX perspective, what do we want to do in more complicated cases like that one.
Yeah.
Got it, cool.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm so frustrated at our drop downs that they don't support these input drop downs so easily. And you're right, like it requires a button. There's so much logic baked into that drop down though, of like the keyboard, the keyboard is baked into that component. The positioning of the drop down is baked into it. I wish we could just shimmy an input instead of a button there. It's really frustrating.
It's really it's giving me deja vu, Paul. You say I pinged you on something this week where I'm trying to use view router with GL tabs, and it's exactly the same sort of thing. It's like it should be so easy, but there's all this crazy stuff that you think, oh yeah, so we've got handling of keyboard input, we've got handling of this and this and this and all this kind of stuff that you think a tab should be something really, really simple and straightforward, as should a drop down or a combo box or whatever we want to call it. But there's so many complexities, and this looks like, is it making a GraphQL query when you click on the search box? So it's even like we couldn't show a drop down real time because we have to wait for the query to come back, and it's super clever what it's doing.
So it's like I'm on clicking of this, on focus of this, I'm fetching the iterations, and then I'm showing the skeleton loader till it's loading. So it's a lot of logic built in. So it's kind of working how it should, but definitely lacking the basic things like it's like this other person doesn't know that it's not a drop down. The other person, like for a UX person, like
you say you're bad at accessibility. I'm bad at everything to do with design. That's why I like component libraries. I would ideally have nothing to do with any design.
Yeah. And that's, I think, is just, here's the moral of the story is like the friction you're running into, it's worth going back to the beginning and evaluating, is there an easier approach? Is there something else we should be doing? Like we can keep driving down the frictional road, but it's just worth reevaluating. I shared another link. Could you open this other link on the Zoom chat?
Sure.
So I was beaten up on Bootstrap View for their drop-down library. Had so much like that so much we wanted of the functionality was baked into that component that required having a button and all sorts of things. But interestingly enough, they do have this thing, which is a drop-down mixin. And they use this, which encapsulates the popper positioning of the drop down, encapsulates the keyboard navigation stuff, all of that sweet stuff the accessibility stuff we really want with drop down is actually encapsulated by this mixin that Bootstrap's drop down component uses. This is good news for us because maybe we could use the same Bootstrap drop down mixin for our input drop down thing that we're trying to do. But this would require it being in the component library. But maybe it's like no work at all because maybe all the work's already done for us. But it is approaching the problem at a different level. And it's like the fact that drop down, it's not popping up. To me, that's like, we're going to need to use popper. Like this is a really hard problem of the positioning of dropdown stuff that's already solved, and we don't want to resolve that problem. I think it's potentially worth us seeing if we can put together. I bet we can actually do it. This is me being overly optimistic. I bet we could do it really quick because we have this mix-in of an input component drop-down thing we can use.
And I always balance Paul's optimism with pessimism. And I just dropped a link to the sunk cost fallacy. Like the work we've done on this so far, like especially given that we would love to have something in GitLab UI that does what we really want, is a reason to like, let's step back and maybe start over on this from a fresh perspective and in terms of how it would work best in GitLab UI.
And there's no and this is iteration. Like we move forward, we run to friction. Iteration is going back to the beginning. And
Throwing away code is a great thing. It means you've got a better idea and you're doing something better.
But I do think like the search drop down. I remember working with I think it was Zach. I remember.
Yeah, so one, yes, correct. So he's the one. He's the one who implemented header search. Yeah, I know.
I remember working with him on this, and the custom component we made for this was kind of intended of like, we need this right away, so we're just going to iterate on this. And so this is just the classic, oh no, the temporary code is spreading.
Yeah, so I'm using the same. Yeah, so he's the one who actually, because I used the same component and it wasn't working. It is not documented well enough. So yeah, he had to like, my MR is with a very long comment of the labels and active descendant and everything. Yes. So yes, the same one. Yeah. Zach
the technical debt is like, the technical debt is just like a drop of poison in the pool. It just keeps spreading through everywhere.
Can I ask a question? I hope not to throw the spanner in the works, but because we're talking about populating the drop down from GraphQL, and we need to do like a loading spinner, and we'd be able to handle that in. We wouldn't do the GraphQL bit clearly in GitLab UI, but we'd do something that said show some kind of loading state until the loading flag is set to true or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And we can simulate. I love doing. I love simulating this with stories. Like using the stories to simulate that is like one of my favorite ways to do this, because the story is where you can put like, oh, we'll just time out for a second and pretend to load in data. And it's like all of that stuff. And we could just focus on just presentation at the GitLab UI level, which is really nice. So we can actually create a whole searching thing and a GitLab UI story, which would be really cool.
So you want us to start bashing code then?
I think it's, I honestly, I do think it's going to be worth it, Deepika. And I know it's not a great feeling, but to me, if you click on the drop down, the fact that it doesn't move up, that's functionality we really need. And that's functionality we don't want to re-implement. So to me, it's like, unfortunately, it's like, this is really placing high priority of we want to somehow reuse our drop down.
So you got the scrolling issue, the popping up issue, the keyboard shortcuts not quite working properly issue. So you got 3 issues already that might be solved by this mixing.
That's my I think it's going to be easier too. That's what I'm excited about.
Show us how it's done.
Communicate optimism. I think this will be easier. But we'll see. I can start. I can we can use the rest of our time together. I can start driving of maybe putting together a GitLab UI component. Lee's gonna laugh at me because I'm notorious for starting GitLab UI components and not finishing them.
We'll finish that one day.
We'll finish this. Yeah, I know that one we'll have to finish. So maybe let's try that out and see what happens. Is everyone good with maybe spending 20-ish minutes to see how far we can get with the
Absolutely.
Okay. I'm gonna open up your MR, Deepika, because that's gonna be really important to reference. But let me also go to the GitLab UI. Oh, I'm already here. Let me get the latest. Okay, let me open this up. Okay. And let me go to, I forgot, how do we add a new component? There's like a, somewhere in here, something about, I'm just gonna look for a new component. Yes, for details on how to add new components. Oh yes, here we go. Adding new components. You should use yarn generate component to begin your component implementation. Component. Yes, maybe I should check out a branch for this. Get CLB. We're gonna call it, I'm just gonna put FE for front end because it's not just my branch, it's everybody's branches. I don't know what to call this. Input drop down. That is maybe, or like
Search.
search. Yeah. Search input drop down. That's cool. Yeah. All right. Yarn generate component. Let's go. Plop. Please choose a generator. Create a GL component. Oh yes. Let's just create a regular component. Component name in snake case. This is a, I want to say input drop down.
Search drop down, maybe slightly.
I mean, are we
but-
searching? Do we have to be searching?
What else would you be inputting for? I
That's
guess.
a good question. I don't know. Text.
I suppose you could have something cool where if you type, like, let's say it's the labels one, and you type something it doesn't exist, you could press a button and it would add it.
Yeah. So maybe it's not just search. I'm gonna
Maybe
call
it's
it
not just search.
text input drop down.
But if you plan to integrate this feature where you show the loading screen or the loading placeholder before you actually render the content, that's kind of searching then. One way or another.
I guess text input doesn't mean you can't search, right? Oh, I don't know.
Search input drop down or text input drop down.
That's fine. That's all good. That's all good.
Search input. We'll call it search. We can always rename it. Component will be placed. Yes. All right. Boom. All right. I've already created 7 files. It hasn't even been 7 minutes. Great. Because I like to get feedback on what I'm working on. Let me go ahead and start Storybook. All right. So we are interested in, while that's loading. Which one is it?
Iteration, work item.
This one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, we get all the stuff. Oh, it's gonna be so sweet, Topeka. It's gonna be so sweet. I think
Awesome.
I think it's gonna be okay. So we want to use dropdown. We're gonna have an input, and we want the dropdown to come out of it.
Yeah.
So let's. Would you like to send crash reports to Storybook? Why are you asking me this? What just happened? Oh, did it actually crash? Oh. What's wrong with you? What? Can't resolve things. Why can't you resolve things? Can't resolve source components? Oh no, this didn't generate it correctly, did it? Oh no. Our generator's broken. Okay, that's fine. We'll be okay. Let me move our faces. I think let's figure out how we want to use this thing. Yes, search input drop down. So I see us wanting to use this where we pass in the input is a slot, like that, the big form input is a slot. Yep. And then
Why want that as a slot? We always, like, if it's a search input, we always would want, or do we want, okay, yeah, maybe someone wants to just have a button or something, and like, if someone wants to put something else, it's not, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
maybe, but maybe it's not. Like maybe it shouldn't be. I really don't know. We will need to like listen to when we've changed it and stuff. I'm just
So, I mean, for me, if we are solving, because this already is there in the dropdown where we have a slot for the header, and that's how we are putting search box by type in the current one. So
yeah, that's fair.
that's what I feel. I may be wrong. I don't know. That's
No,
what
no,
I
no.
feel.
I like it. I think that's a good point. Let's move it up here. Let's do it. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Let's check it out. Import. What am I trying to import? I'm trying to import a component. Why are there so many components? Is this front end? Gosh, where'd all these components? In form input. That's got to be what I'm looking for. Yes, I'm looking for form input. It's form input, form input. Form input.
I think you've put from. That's why it's not.
Thank you. Gosh, thank you. Yes, thank you. What was that? That is totally what I did. That was really frustrating. All right, we will use form input, and it's gonna be great. Okay, Storybook is working. Let's open up Storybook. We're gonna go to our, we called it search input dropdown. That's it. This is a search input dropdown. No one can argue with that. It is it. All right. Input. What do I need for this component? Here's a combo box. Well, what's combo box?
Yeah, so the combo box is that's how I want this to work actually, with the combo box, and that's how the UX person referred to when he was referring. But the difference in combo box, there is just a list of items. There's no grouping, and it's just
Is
the
that
list
really
of,
it?
like,
Maybe we could just improve combo box. Oh wait.
Animals we tolerate.
Animals we
but
tolerate.
I have this thing that if you go to the docs and you, like, if you see that it's written clearly that if you want something more complex or powerful, you just start using search box by type, and it doesn't have that capability. I just read the docs and it's just like yeah. But then
I see
I mean,
this
it
is probably
works.
has some of the same issues as well. And so I almost see what we're about to create could be reused by combo box. I think I see. I think, yeah, so what the issue, what I don't want to do is we're not going to hard code the drop down items. That is something we'll get from a slot, because that's going to be very specific of like the headers and all the other stuff we need to pass in through drop down. But it does sound like we should be able to use the
drop down, right?
yes, or the drop down mixin, because we can't use the actual drop down component. So we'll try to use
Yeah.
it. Thank you. Deepika, you're so I am like really struggling mentally right now. I know it's late for you. You're like on fleek, as the kids say.
I don't say it anymore, Paul.
Is that what the kids say? That's what the kids say, right? That's
Yeah.
not cool anymore. Oh man. All right. I think I just want to say this is just a text box. Let me double check that I'm not. Let me go back to my drop. What was it called? It was called a search input drop down. All right. Do we have a text thing that happened here? Oh no, GL form input. What's wrong with you? Did I do from? Oh, this isn't, oops, sorry. When I import it this way, this is not a named input, import. Yes. Great. All right, we're getting there. All right, I will need to wrap this in a div because we're gonna have more content. We're gonna have a slot which contains all of our drop downy stuff. But let's look at let's take a brief
So,
moment to look at that mixin here. So this is a drop down mixin. It has, oh, look at all the stuff. Click out mixins, all sorts of good stuff. But I want to see how I'm expected to interact with this thing. Maybe it's oh, it might not be. I doubt it is. Yeah, it's not going to be referenced here. So, and somehow this is, I'm trying to decipher the interface for this mixin. Let me see when it creates popper. That's gonna be helpful. It creates this when we decide we need to show menu. When does it decide it needs to show the menu? It does this when it watches a state of if we're visible or not. And visible is what's defined outside of the thing. So visible is part of this mixins interface. I really hate mixins, but it's kind of, I feel like our situation warrants it. But please stop me if I'm making a huge mistake. Bootstrap view, and we would go to yes.
Can you help us understand what mixins are? It's just like a library of, it's just not a component, it's just the JavaScripty bit, right?
It's like a Rails, it's like a Ruby / Rails
Gem.
concern. No, it's
Oh, okay.
it's like, and so they will often look for methods that exist on the subject they're being applied to. But you can just imagine the kind of coupling that creates, because there's a name collision to be concerned about of I'm creating methods that this thing is like, there's a lot to be concerned about when you use mixins, which is very similar, I think, to like Ruby concerns and
It's the
stuff.
form of multiple inheritance, which is always fraught with peril.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I think our situation warrants it. We could, if we were really fancy, like probably the best thing to do would be to like encapsulate this logic in a component or in some sort of like, if we were using later view, we could encapsulate this in like a hook, so that we're not further coupling to this mixin. But that's for future. That's a future problem. Let's see. So let's then look at, so when this thing creates its popper, yes. So that's, I happen to know that that's what's being used to position stuff. So because the mixin is responsible for that, I'm looking for yes, it's wanting a, for drop up with alignment, we use the parent element as popper container. Yes. Yeah, let's try that out. All right, we're instantiating the popper. That's great. What's actually like, let me see how Bootstrap does its drop down component. I think that'll be helpful to understand too. So I'm going to drop down. So when Bootstrap creates its menu, it creates, yeah, it just passes everything to the slot. Ref menu. Does this reference a menu ref at all? Let me see. Yes, it does. Yeah, look at this. Okay, okay, that seems important. Yeah, look at all this logic that's like encapsulated here. Like there's a lot of baked in business logic with drop downs we don't want to recreate. So this is, I'm feeling like we're getting close, but I'm a little nervous about mix-ins in general, but we're just gonna plow forward, see what happens. So we're using, and I'm just gonna put in hello world. We'll just put that in right now. Let's go to here. When we, is this referencing any of the CSS classes? No, this is not. Oh, maybe it is. No, I don't think it is. Maybe. Look at this. Yeah, from here we look at, how is this CSS selector used? Selector, form, child. Oh no, I don't think we need to do that. Maybe. I'll have to look at
Focus
that.
next is, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Ignore key up on down on form elements.
So
That's
maybe-
interesting.
Maybe we have to hard code those classes in the.
Yeah, I want to see. Yes, this is the bit that I wasn't sure about, is like there's a visible state we need to add to here as well. So the mix-in is going to be, so there's a visible state we want to add. Looks like mix-in wants to be up here. That's fine. Looks like this import wants to be up here. That's fine too. Let's go ahead and create a computed for menu classes. We don't need that. We don't have that. It really is just show whether or not this is visible. And so we're going to put the class menu classes. Okay. And let's do this. We're on focus. Focus is the focus.
Yeah.
On focus is when we're going to show this thing, I think, right? Is that what triggers the
Yeah.
that sounds right. On, and how's it go again? How do we on, yeah, how do we use
This-
computers? Yeah, equals true. Okay, let's do it. Let's see what happens. Oh.
Options is undefined.
That's right. So we will look at yes, and this is likely, this is good, we're running into these issues. This is because the mix-in is looking for something to do with options likely. Or I bet it's popper Yeah, it's wanting popper options. If we go back to here, you'll see in these props, it's also exporting all the drop down props as its own props. So let's go ahead and do that. And I think that's related to what's going on here. So let's import props as drop down props. And in our own props, I think we can just spread drop down props. I think that's what's happening. Let's try it again. Oops. No, that is not what's happening. What's wrong with you? Render options is undefined. Oh, let's see. Check components, merge options. Is this a storybook thing? Options is undefined. Does getting rid of the mixin help? Getting rid of the mixin 100% helps. So what is going on there? Yeah, for some reason it's having a hard time initializing. Options. This seems like somehow including the mixin caused the story to die. All right, so the task at hand is this mixin contains a lot of the logic. I'm gonna see if me plugging around at this for 15 minutes, I can get to where we can actually consume this mixin. If it looks like we can't, then yeah, we're gonna be in a situation where we'll need to recreate what this mixin is doing, and we can either choose to do that specifically in the iteration dropdown, or we can create something reusable. But because we're at time, I'm just gonna keep plugging away at this. If you want to hang out, feel free to hang out. But I will post asynchronously an update on the MR of what we talked about and the things we investigated and options forward. So this is such an interesting problem. Thanks for bringing it up, Deepika.
Thank you, and thanks for yeah, I wanted to go back, but I was hesitant, but now I'm definitely going to actually iterate, and because I thought it's just like I'm not able to, but it is, everyone agrees that it's as complex as I think, so it makes me feel that okay, then the problem everyone understands. Yeah. So
That's the
everyone
benefit of
understands
pairing.
so yeah.
Getting more
So
eyes on the problem.
What I think is
Yeah.
going to happen is we're going to end up with a really sweet reusable solution. So that's I'm really optimistic about what could come forward from here. So thanks for bringing it up. That was fantastic. So yeah, this was really good. All right, I'm going to keep
I want to
plugging
give
away.
you some praise, Paul. Like you're so good at pairing. Like when you're driving, you narrate everything you do, and that's such a hard skill to learn and to get good at. You're really good at it.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for the praise, Chad. Yeah. I'm going to keep going. So I'll leave this open, but I do want to leave, and I want to invite everyone to leave if they want to leave.
Take care, guys. See you later.
All right. Adios.
Would you share the link to the MR once it's there, or?
Yeah, I will ping us on the MR. I lost the MR. It's in here though.
It's the first thing in the Zoom chat.
No, this isn't it. This isn't it.
Here, I'll redrop it again.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, if you could, that'd be great. It's
There
just
it is. In Zoom.
in Zoom it's in there. Well, this is
Yep,
the
cool.
issue. Do we have an MR for this one though?
Oh, she said she had pushed something. I don't know if she said she made an MR, or was it just?
I think
red?
it's here. Here it is. Here it is.
Okay.
Cool. All right. I'm gonna time box myself. I'm gonna work on this for probably 15 more minutes. I feel optimistic being able to use the mix-in. I don't feel great using a mix-in, but then we don't have to recreate all the logic.
It's iteration. It's at least in GitLab UI, you know, even if it's not.
Yeah,
Yes.
true.
Yeah, that's a good point. This seems weird. I don't know what's going on here.
Alrighty, I gotta go. So
All right.
have
Thanks
fun.
for hanging out, Andre.
Thanks for
Take
coming.
care.
Cheers.
You want to kill the recording, Paul?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, TV Land. How do we stop recording?